Hello, it's John Heaton, and I'm going to have a go at, partly in honour of Bob Dylan's 80th birthday, and just partly because I think it's not a bad topic to do. I'm going to try and choose my favourite Dylan tracks from his career. And when I first started off, I thought, well, this is impossible. I'm going to have to do top 150 or something. And then I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll pick my top songs from each decade. So I'm going to start off today with the 60s. Then I'll cover the 70s and the 80s and subsequent decades in later videos. Haven't quite decided how many parts I'm going to do. I was going to do my top 20 for the 60s. It quickly became impossible, so I've got 30 songs here. And even though I've listed 30, my personal favourite 30, there's a hell of a lot of great songs which didn't make the list, which is unfortunate, but you know, that's in the that's part of the game. If you do a listing, by definition, you have to leave a lot of stuff out. So I hope you're not offended if you don't agree. And obviously, it's only my opinion, and it's just a bit of fun. So, in reverse order, I started off with 25, and then I extended it to 30. So I've got Down Along the Cove at number 30 from John Wesley Harding, which is an extremely simple song with Bob just playing a couple of chords on the piano and just singing this tune about being down along the cove, you know, by the sea, and it's just delightful. It's only 2 minutes 15 seconds long, but I just think it works a treat, and that has probably always been in my top 3 or 4 on John Wesley Harding album. And even though as a song, as I say, it's not more than a couple of chords really, but simplicity is beauty in this case. Number 29, I've got It's All Right Ma. I won't hold the albums up all the time, but this song, It's All Right Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, is from Bringing It All Back Home, which was a 1965 album. And it's got all these great lines like money doesn't talk, it swears. And sometimes the President of the United States must have to stand naked. And when he did a live version of that song on Before the Flood, it was right in the middle of Watergate, or just after Nixon had resigned, so it was very appropriate. And he's done great renditions of this song over the years, normally just him on acoustic, sometimes with a band. Number 28, I've got I Shall Be Free from the Freewheeling album, 1963, his second album. And this is a hilarious song where, you know, he phones up President Kennedy and my friend Bob, what do I need to make the country grow? My friend John, Bridget Bardot, Sophia Loren, Anita Exberg, country will grow. Hilarious. Just one of those talking blues kind of numbers which he was so famous for, particularly in the early days. And there's a particular favourite of mine which didn't quite make the list, which is on the Bootleg Series Volumes 1 to 3, the Talking Bear Mountain Picnic Blues, which is hilarious. Check that out if you haven't heard it. Number 27 is back to Bring It All Back Home, and the opening track, Subterranean Homesick Blues, which is a great romp of a song with some mad lyrics. And don't follow leaders, watch your parking meters, and brilliant. And actually one of the first songs where there's a video to go with it, although it wasn't intended as a video. They just knew that it was going to be in the film Don't Look Back, and they needed a bit of film to go with it. So Bob just went out the back of the Savoy Hotel with some cards, and if you've seen the video, he just like drops the cards as the song goes along. It's timeless. Number 26, we've got She Belongs to Me from the same album, Bringing It All Back Home. Very consistent album, particularly side 1. And then 25, we have a track from one of my favourites personally of his, which is Nashville Skyline from 1969. A glorious departure from what he'd been doing up to now. This was basically a love song album, and he was very much domesticated at the time, living with his family out in the country and away from the city, away from the big lights, and there's no kind of psychedelic imagery, there's no Memphis Blues again, there's no politics, it's just straight love songs for the most part. And I've got One More Night, second track on side 2, which is just a gorgeous melody and lovely playing from Kenny Buttrey and Charlie McCoy, Pete Drake, those Nashville Kings, Charlie Daniels. The only thing to say about that album is it's short, it's under half an hour long, but while it lasts, it's brilliant. 24 is also from this album, Tell Me It Isn't True, from side 2, which is an album track again. So those songs follow each other, and I think they're two of the best on the album. You know, Darling, I'm Counting on You, Tell Me That It Isn't True. So that you've been seen with some other man. He's tall, dark and handsome, and he's holding your hand. So basically, a straight love song or a song to his girlfriend to say, please don't tell me you're cheating on me, kind of thing. And it's just a marvellous song, and very much different subject matter to what he'd been covering earlier in the 60s, but none the worse for that. Number 23, I've got a track from the Basement Tapes, and I've chosen $1 Million Bash just because I think it's hilarious. He's backed by the band on this album, and the words are just really funny, and they're going to this party called $1 Million Bash, and you know, I could have chosen any number of songs off the Basement Tapes, but this is the one I ended up choosing. It's probably my favourite, or it is today anyway. Number 22, we're going to Blonde on Blonde from May 66. And we are going to choose, I am going to choose Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, the song from side 2, which is a hilarious song based on the kind of blues chord changes, but with great lines like you balance your balance your leopard skin pillbox head on your head like a mattress on a bottle of wine. It's just absolutely stunning. And one of the lighter tracks on Blonde on Blonde, one of the more humorous tracks. We are now going to go back to Freewheeling and Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, and you could have done better, but I don't mind. You kind of wasted my precious time, but don't think twice, it's all right. This is just a lovely song, and from his acoustic period, which I don't play as often as I do his later albums. Prefer it when he's got a band, but this album in particular of his acoustic period, which he did 4 albums, is the first 4 were all acoustic, and this is probably the standout album because the songwriting is just of such a standard, it's almost breathtaking. Now we've got back to Nashville Skyline, and the first song on side 2, Lay Lady Lay, which is just a gorgeous ballad. Great musicianship again from the Nashville guys, and great tune, and just a straight love song really, but one of the nicest love songs ever written. I'll say it like that. And number 19, we're going back to Bringing It All Back Home, and it's the closer, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. And saw Bob Dylan do this in concert in 1984 when Van Morrison came on at the end and joined him, and his band, Them, also attempted a cover of this, which I have on some CD. And that reminds me, I was also listening to Chrissie Hynde's new compilation of Dylan covers, which is very nice, and she does I can't remember whether she does this song, but she does a lot of great songs. I'm trying to remember from the 60s which ones in particular, because she covers, you know, songs from throughout his career, and I was really impressed. So that was It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. Go strike a match and start anew, and It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. Now we're back to Blonde on Blonde, first track on side 3. Most likely you go your way and I'll go mine. And the album version is probably my favourite, but he does a storming version to open the concert with the band in '74 on Before the Flood, and screams the words. And it's I'm not sure if it was autobiographical, this song about a breakup, but it's pretty uplifting song to listen to. The number 17 I've got from his third album, Times They Are A-Changing, the title track, and a few people were concerned that he was going too political at the time, and what are you doing this for? And Bob said this is the kind of thing people want to hear, and he was right. It was right at the time of Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, the same year as that, and the process was in the air, you know, with Pete Seeger and Joan Baez and Bob Peter, Paul and Mary, a lot of people at the fore of that movement. So that's a brilliant song. Ballad of a Thin Man. We are now going to the Highway 61 album, which is also from 65, same year as Bringing It All Back Home. And and the track I've chosen is Ballad of a Thin Man, where Bob is playing piano. He's playing piano on quite a bit of this album, I noticed, not just on that song. I think he's playing piano on Takes a Lot to Laugh as well. Whereas in previous albums he wasn't playing piano that much, I don't think. Latter day Dylan, he's on the piano all the time when you see him in concert. These days he hardly touches the guitar, but this was Something Is Happening and You Don't Know What It Is, Do You, Mr. Jones? And that Mr. Jones was referred to by John Lennon, obviously, on his song Yer Blues on the White Album. No, number 15, we're jumping to the John Wesley Harding album from, actually, I always thought it was January 68, but it came out in the last few days of December 67. So I need to adjust my thinking and think of it as a 67 album rather than 68, although it was the very end of the year. And it's the title track, and I think it's about an outlaw who was called John Wesley Harding without the G, but he added the G on the end because maybe he didn't know how it was spelt or something. But it's one of I'm not sure if it means too much literally, but it's a lovely tune and just well sung by Bob. You know, he was making his comeback, first album for 19 months since Blonde on Blonde and his motorbike accident, and he came back and just stripped bare this sound with just Charlie McCoy, Kenny Buttrey, Pete Drake and Bob. There's no other instruments on it, although the instrumentation is not that dissimilar from Blonde on Blonde because that was basically the same people playing. But for example, I'm not sure if there's too much organ or anything like that on this album, whereas Blonde on Blonde, it's over that one. Number 14, we're going to go back to Times Are Changing and the Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll, and I recently really discovered this track, or rediscovered it, because I read up on what it was about and who Hattie Carroll was, this waitress who got struck on the head by a drunken guy late at night and died of her injuries later in hospital. And the song is a very sympathetic portrait, although some people take issue with the lyrics, saying they weren't strictly correct, but I think the message is more important here. And it was at the time of a lot of racial tension in the US, and so I think it's valid as a kind of symbolic song of what was going on. Number 13, I've got first track side 2 of John Wesley Harding, Dear Landlord, where Bob is playing gorgeous piano and a lovely melody, and we're not sure who the landlord is. Is it God? People have speculated. Who is it? But really nice words and really nicely sung. Number 12, we're back to Bringing It All Back Home and Love Minus Zero No Limit, which is a great tune, well sung, lovely lyrics. And he did this song for concert for Bangladesh, at least in the rehearsals, but I think when they came to do the finished show they dropped it. But I think on the DVD of Bangladesh you can see him doing a version of this. Number 11, we've got the Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest. They were the best of friends, from John Wesley Harding, and a hilarious story about these two friends who get up to no good and visit whorehouses and all the rest of it, and it's just a great story song. Number 10, back to Bringing It All Back Home, another song from that album, and it's the first song on side 2, Mr. Tambourine Man, which here is taken kind of acoustically, and the Byrds would take this song and get all the way to the top of the charts with a jangly, more electric version of this song. But it's timeless. The original is timeless as well. And number 9 is the closing track from John Wesley Harding, I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, which is quite short and it fades out far too quickly at the end. That's my only criticism of this song, because the tune is just lovely and it's a straight love song, but you know, I'm not complaining. I think it's a really nice sentiment behind it. Number 8, we've got almost the opposite of that song. We've got Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues Again, which is one of those songs with these superb word imagery from Bob. which he was doing in his sleep around this time, 65, 66. One thinks of Subterranean Homesick Blues, one thinks of this song, and a few others. Just hilarious, and it goes on a long time, but it doesn't outstay its welcome. Number 7, we're back to freewheeling with the classic Blowing in the Wind, and this is so simple. How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. It's just one of those songs which one wish one had written, or I guess if I was a songwriter, I would have wished I'd written it, because it's just timeless. It could be sung 100 years from now. Like a lot of other Bob's other early songs, I'm sure they'll be timeless as well, and his later songs. But politically, it doesn't matter whether you're singing this in 63 or 2003 or 50 years from now. It's going to be relevant. So I love that, and a great version of that on Bangladesh, as we know. So at number 6, we've got the closing track from Blonde on Blonde, which takes up the whole of side 4, Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, written to his new wife or fiancée, Sarah. And I think he stayed up all night in the Chelsea hotel writing this song for her, because that's in the later song Sarah. He recounts that in the line of one of the lines of that song, and it's got this haunting melody, these great chord changes, and great organ as well. I'm not sure if it's Al Cooper who plays that organ, but they just get a lovely sound on Blonde on Blonde, particularly on that track, and several others actually. Number 5, I've got the perennial favourite, Like a Rolling Stone, which I don't think I've met anyone who dislikes this song. Yes, it is a bit vindictive maybe, or aimed at someone. Wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of who it's aimed at, but it's sufficiently generic that it can appeal to everyone, and it's not that vindictive. It's just basically slagging off these types, all alone, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone. Not aimed at Mick Jagger, I'm sure, because they were pretty good friends, I think. Number 4, we've got a track from side 1 of Blonde on Blonde, Visions of Johanna, which again has this great instrumentation, and Bob's voice is probably the best of his career on this song. Just haunting. And again, as with these other reviews, I'm struggling to find new words in the English language to describe these songs. Mesmerizing is another word for this song. Number 3, we are going back to Nashville Skyline and the ballad I Threw It All Away on side 1, which I could have put this at number 1. I really do think this is an absolute golden nugget in Bob's catalogue, and just about perfectly played. I think there was a take 2 attempted on the bootleg series, and they almost get it right, but there's a couple of things not quite right. But I think this was on the album is take 1, or maybe it was the other way around. But it's just perfection in every aspect of the song, from the melody to the vocals to the instrumentation, the way it's played, and the sentiment. 10 out of 10. Number 2, we're back to freewheeling, and the Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. And was this to Brian Ferry's cover of this song, which is quite interesting. And also the album I have of covers of Bob has cover versions by Elvis, The Byrds, Them, Susie and the Banshees, Jimi Hendrix, Tina Turner, Joe Cocker, Eric Clapton, Joan Baez, and the Everly Brothers. Well worth picking that album up. I think it's called Songs of Bob Dylan. Anyway, back to the song, Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. I don't have the words in front of me, and I'm not going to try and quote them, but what did you see, my blue-eyed son? What did you see, my darling young one? And then he just has this endless stream of imagery of I saw this and I saw that, and and also another great version of this song was Patti Smith, who did this at the when Bob got his Nobel Prize. She represented him at the ceremony, and she does a great version of this. It actually breaks down in the middle, so she has to start it again. But that's worth checking out. But anyway, this is another song which in 50 years from now is going to be remembered and is going to be relevant. And again, there's a great version of this on the concert for Bangladesh. He chose the songs well for that album, for that concert, and incidentally, that my number one choice he also played at Bangladesh, which is From Blonde and Blonde, Just Like a Woman. And talk about perfection in a song, this is just about it. From the musicianship with the Nashville guys and the organ and the tune and just the way Bob sings it. It's just about the best song on Blonde and Blonde, and the best song, well, I've voted it the best song of the 60s from Bob Dylan. And you may not agree with it, that's fine. So this was the list. The 26 to 30 are in very small writing at the bottom there because I just added them on as an afterthought. But this is my list as of today. It'll probably change. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.